Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel 101. So today we're going to be looking at some powerful nodes. Specifically, we're going to look at the combination of using the color ramp and the math node with the operation add. I have a quick setup here, and by the way, you can get the project file on Gumroad and my Patreon. Let's start with the first example. I'm going to import in an image texture. I can mix it with a transparency node and use the alpha channel to show the transparent area. Let me just switch these. We want to use a combination of the color ramp and a math node with the operation of add to create a logo reveal. If you have something like a noise texture or any other texture, it can be a gradient, it can be anything. We can connect the factor to the add and then the add to the color ramp, and we can use this as the factor. This will become a mask of our transparency. If I add more contrast to this, let's first preview this noise directly. Let's say we have something like that. If we're using this as the transparency, you can see the white areas. Let me first hide this, or let me first give this a color of its own. You can see how this is creating the transparency of our shader. Having an add node between the color ramp and any other texture gives you control over the color ramp here. So instead of moving these nodes, having an add node here allows you to do that easily. It's like pushing these nodes around this area. So this makes it really easy for you to control the effect of color ramp. And then the color ramp, you can use it to make the mask more smooth or really sharp. And it doesn't matter what is on the left. We can use a gradient, and adjusting this will basically change the position of the gradient. If this was spherical, we would have the option to change this. We can have the gradient start from the center by changing the coordinates to object. Because this already had an alpha mask, we can use a math node with the operation multiply to multiply the different masks. And now you can adjust this, and now we have an easy logo reveal. If we had, let's say, a Voronoi texture, and this would still work the same way. You can change this to distance edge, and look at that. Now, if you're using Blender 4.5, you have the ability to copy from one node tree to another. So I'm just going to copy these shader nodes. We need the Voronoi, add, and color. Copy them, and we can paste them in geometry nodes. I can go into geometry nodes, create new geometry nodes, and paste them directly there. The main thing is the add and the color ramp. So we can have our well subdivided grid. Let's just subdivide this mesh like maybe 6 times. If we use a set position, and let's say this becomes the Z here, I mean, first increase the scale so that we don't have too many of these, and just scale down the height a bit using a math node here with the operation of multiply. If you use the add node, you're moving them along this line here, which gives you some nice effects. And it's not just limited to the position. These two nodes are quite powerful. For example, if we instance on points to affect the scale or the rotation, we can create a random rotation using the random node. We can determine where that random rotation is by scaling the vector using a vector scale and connecting this. So now adjusting this should affect what parts get the rotation. You can also use this for the scale, but we might want to scale this down so that it's not too big. So you can see how powerful these two nodes are. We can just use a gradient again, gradient texture, instead of a Voronoi, and we'll basically get the same effect. I can flip this using a flip. You can see what we get. Remember, spreading these apart just adds more smoothness. You can still do quite a few things here. You can use a set position, have the gradient affect the position. You can also flip the gradient by just duplicating the gradient and using a flip node. And when you change the color and make it less white, you can see you can reduce the height just like that. And now look at that. You might want to flip the rotation so that they end up with no rotation. So I can just add the color ramp here and flip it for just the rotation. So look at that. They rotate, they move away, and they fade out. Another good example is, say you have a string like this. Since these are instances, you can use the same thing. You can use our rotate instances, and you can see each instance can be rotated individually. But with the same setup, let's paste it here. You can determine the rotation using a gradient. So you can see how that works. And that's it. That's the power of the add node combined with the color ramp. Subscribe for more combinations. You can get the project files on my Gumroad and my Patreon page. I'll check out my other courses. I'll see you in the next video.